Ogles. He's a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, what are your thoughts on this new threat from the president and the fact that this could indeed become a 2-month shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security?
Yeah, I mean, it's go time. The Senate, quite frankly, the Senate Democrats are derelict in their duty. So not only do we have TSA not being funded or Homeland Security not being funded, we have other capabilities as well, other agencies like CISA, which protect us from cyber attacks from China. We have very specific nuclear sniffing technologies at our ports and ports of entry that aren't being fully operational because of this. And so whatever measures are necessary to get this done, it's time. And quite frankly, to Leader Thune, it is time for you to lead or get out of the way and let someone else lead.
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, the reconciliation conversation is on the table. I want you to listen to what Senator Ron Johnson told Maria about this possibility and what the path could be.
We had assurance from OMB that both CBP and ICE are fully funded and they have the flexibility to fund them through the end of this fiscal year. So that was the reality we were going into with these negotiations. Democrats weren't even negotiating for the first 30-plus days of this most recent shutdown. So this is the only thing we can get Democrats to agree to: fund the rest of ICE, fund the rest of DHS, TSA, Coast Guard, CISA, all these other things. Get that funded. Use the funding from the reconciliation bill early in the year, and then move to a reconciliation process where we can fund DHS through fiscal year 2029. That'd be my preference. Reconciliation doesn't require a 60-vote threshold. So, you can roll the dice on anything. Let's move toward reconciliation as quickly as possible, get as much of DHS funded as we can with Democrat votes. Again, that's what we can do other than CBP and ICE. That's funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill. Move immediately to a rapid, very focused reconciliation package that will fund DHS for 4 years through fiscal year 2029, and then come up with a standby reconciliation appropriation process to really trigger start in the beginning of October, when the appropriation process breaks down because of Democrat obstructionism again.
You know, Congressman, you heard Senator Johnson, and this was on Sunday. This is after Friday afternoon when Speaker Mike Johnson came out and said that there was going to be no movement on what the Senate had passed. And so, all of this arguing, you heard Senator Johnson say that we have a path forward, we had a plan, and now the House, unfortunately, is stopping that. How do you respond?
Well, unfortunately, one, there's a path through reconciliation, but that takes time. The Senate sent over a crap piece of legislation to the House, and they left town. And so this is what they normally do, is that they let down the American people, and then they run, hide, and leave town. And that's why we need appropriate leadership who is really willing to charge ahead in the Senate. And so, you can't, change the rules, change the really the meat of a piece of legislation and not expect the House to come back and say, oh, by the way, this isn't good enough. This is not what we promised the American people. And so we did the right thing. We stayed in town. We worked on the weekend. We gave them a piece of legislation that the American people want. And what did they do? They went back home to their districts. They went to Disney World. They had Jell-O parties or whatever the heck they do in the Senate, because they don't work as hard as we do in the House. And again, I'm willing to go back today. If there's a path forward and we need to work on a piece of legislation, I'll spend Easter in Washington, D.C. to get this done for the American people, to get this done for TSA. Oh, and by the way, CISA, again, like I said before, which protects us from cyber attacks. Our nuclear capabilities at our ports aren't being funded. So this is a dereliction of the Senate, and specifically the Senate Democrats, to not protect the American people.
Well, and I think that's why President Trump is threatening for everyone to come back to Washington, because there is so much on the table. In particular, you mentioned with CISA, not just the Iran conflict, but you've got the World Cup that's coming. And CISA is actually the agency, or the group that would prepare for the security of Americans in this nation with these large-scale events. Before you go, GOP lawmakers have new warnings about the Save America Act, Senate Budget Committee Chair Lindsey Graham, who I think you might have just mentioned with the Disney World comment, but I won't elaborate on that, says he doesn't think that the voter ID bill will pass under reconciliation. House Freedom Caucus Chair Andy Harris says the bill is not reconcilable. Senate Republicans have not shown a willingness to hold the Senate in session until they wear down their opponents and pass the bill with a talking filibuster, Congressman. So where do we sit with Save America?
Well, you're exactly right. I think it's time to move into the talking filibuster. That's a very laborious process. It can take 2 or 3 weeks in the Senate. I think part of their issue is they don't have the manpower, if you will, the Senate power, because it's a 24-hour, 24/7 kind of maneuver. And then with reconciliation, that is a budgetary process. And unfortunately, Save America would be more on the policy side. So that's why it's not eligible to be done through reconciliation. But again, going back to Leader Thune, great guy, nice man, but we need leadership right now. We need a wartime leader in the Senate, and if he's not willing to step into that role, you have other senators who will. You take Mike Lee, you take Rick Scott. There's other folks that will take this mantle, that will do the hard charging that the American people are demanding. Look at the polls. People want this type of protection. They want you to have an ID to vote. Common sense legislation that the Senate should have passed already, but instead, they went to Disney World. They're having whatever they're doing. I mean, I am willing to come back right now, work through Easter to get this done.
Okay. Well, you may be forced to. Congressman Andy Ogles, it's great to see you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. All right. We've got a lot more coming up.